I call up Member Davidson.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker. Tēnā koutou e te whare. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very happy to rise and take a short call on behalf of the Green Party to support the Human Rights Act Amendment Bill. As we all know, human rights are an important part of any functioning civil society. And I speak fondly, actually, to this legislation, having had a career of 10 years plus at the Human Rights Commission. I think from 2003 to the end of 2013. I want to acknowledge my colleague Lewis Wall also, who was contemporary with me while we were at the Human Rights Commission. So it does mean that I got to see firsthand not just the importance of the work of the Commission, but in particular the importance of having distinguishable titles that could separate out the actual work, the difference of the work between the Equal Opportunities Commissioner, the Disability Commissioner, the Race Relations Commissioner, for example. And just calling fondly on my time at the Commission, remembering at the time that this bill originally came up for discussion and understanding that there were strong feelings from within the Commission, from us as staff, but also from the Commission as a whole, as to the importance of ensuring that those distinguished titles maintained their special focus and maintained their special weight. And so while I have only been an MP for 6-7 months or so, and I'm new to this legislation, I can recall at the original time that it came up, how important it was for us who were working at the Human Rights Commission. I do want to acknowledge my colleague Catherine Delahunty for her role in taking on board the concerns of the disability community, because at that previous time, she was our spokesperson for disability issues, and she received from the community, and I will also welcome my colleague Mojo Mathers, our current spokesperson, to focus more on this issue. But I did just want to acknowledge Catherine Delahunty for receiving from the sector the concern and the desire to have a specific disability focus, and that she worked through that, put a member's bill into the ballot that was to establish the Disability Commissioner, and that in working with, and here I acknowledge the Māori Party, in working with the Māori Party on this bill, was able to get changes so that the Green Party can confidently support this bill now. So I do acknowledge Catherine Delahunty, the disability community, the Māori Party, and all of us for supporting this bill. There was one other particular issue that I thought I would also pick up, and please, I actually cannot see it in the bill myself, and I'm happy to be corrected on this. After all, this is just debate. But one part I couldn't say for sure was that in the Human Rights Commission, in their submission on this bill, the Human Rights Commission at their conclusion asked that there would be consideration given to adding the promotion of Indigenous rights to the primary functions of the Commission. I haven't been able to find in the legislation whether that has actually happened, but I would strongly have supported that, and I did want to put that on the Hansard record. The Commission, my background in the Human Rights Commission also focused on Indigenous rights, and being able to give our country some weight and some focus on Indigenous rights, I think would have been a fantastic amendment to this bill if that hasn't already been done, and I am happy to be corrected. And they did raise in particular, the Human Rights Commission did in particular raise the fact that we did sign the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, and for that I do acknowledge this government. We did sign that, adopted in 2007, and unlike many of the other treaties and human rights obligations, there is no sort of particular place where that monitoring fits and is given some formal weight. And so I did just want to go through the groups, the international groups in conversation that supported the Human Rights Commission bringing that to focus and requiring and suggesting that that also be an amendment in this bill. So international meeting of experts in Bangkok in December 2009 included the Special Rapporteur on the situation of human rights and fundamental freedoms of Indigenous peoples, representatives of the expert mechanism on the rights of Indigenous peoples, and the Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues addressed the role of national human rights institutions in promoting the implementation of the UN Declaration. If we signed it, why did we sign it? None of our treaty obligations were ever supposed to just be purely a document that sits there. We are supposed to proactively monitor, protect and uphold those obligations in each of the treaties that we sign. And so that international meeting of experts in Bangkok did conclude that national human rights institutions do have a critical role to play in protecting and promoting the rights of Indigenous peoples at the national and local level. And then I think just finally, the reason for that, the importance for that, is because when we uphold the rights of particular minority groups or marginalised groups or groups who we acknowledge have lesser power in the power relationships, we actually create a more sustainable society for all of us. Because if we don't uphold these rights, we all end up paying anyway and doing the fix-up job some way down the track. And so the Human Rights Commission raising that in their submission, I think, would have made a great amendment. And if it's been made, then I stand here to support it and talk about why. And if it hasn't been made, then I stand here to put onto the record that that would have been a fantastic legislation. We are supporting this bill in this third reading in light of the good changes that were included and the good work that happened across the parties. So I thank you again for this opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call